Hi YouTube, I had a book come through the post this week that I've been looking for on eBay for about 12 years. And I'll talk to you about that later, but first I'll quickly go through these books. So these are the old fighting fantasy books. These are all the books that I used to have when I was a kid. I did have the full set at one point, but I decided just to keep the ones that I knew that I had. This is a full set of the Timbuktu books. This is a book that meant a lot to me when I was a kid called The Shrinking of Treehorn. And this is just my case that I keep all my kind of old 80s books in. Um, and yeah, you can see there's a lot in here. So it's mainly like the Munch Bunch books. Obviously, all of these books, because there's so many of them, they're quite hard to get full sets of. Um, I think I had pretty much all of them when I was a kid, though, and most of these are my original books, and then I've just bought back the extra ones to make up the full set. Incidentally, you can check out my other videos if you want to see, more detailed looks at all of these different book sets. This is an Orson's Farm book by Jim Davis, the guy that did Garfield. These are my first library books. These are brilliant. My wife's got a set exactly the same as mine. My nature library. This was always my favourite one. And then we got this Frogs pop-up book. So it's quite a random selection of books in here, but these are all the kind of favourite ones that I had when I was growing up in the 80s. There was a club called the Humpty Dumpty Book Club where you would get these kind of big blue envelopes come through the post, and these are some of the books that I got from there. That was always really exciting because you get this big blue envelope and you'd have to open it up, and it had all kinds of activities and books in it. Yeah, some really interesting books there. And then we've got these ones. I keep a lot of these in kind of cellophane to kind of protect them. So we've got all these Garden Gang books, very much like the Munch Bunch, but they were written by quite a young girl and illustrated, I think, by her as well. So yeah, really nice little books. And then we've got the mushrooms, the fungi. I used to really love these, and I think probably they were one of my favourite books at the time. These were as well, not this one because this is He-Man, although I did like that obviously, but these ones, the Major Tom books, I used to love these as well. I think I just like the little characters in them, and I used to draw them quite a lot. That's those. Like I say, this is just a quick run through of these books. Incidentally, the Garden Gang books came like this as well, not just with the white covers, they came with the green covers, and they were sort of matte finish rather than shiny. So I've got a set of those as well, because I think I had a mix of both when I was a kid. These books are really rare. It was so hard for me to track these down. Roger the Robot, and I only had that one book, Roger the Robot Arrives, when I was a kid, I think. But I saw that whole set on eBay and I bought it straight away because I thought that might be the only time I ever see them all. There's Garfield. These books were great where you could just flip them over and make different characters. Here's another one. Yeah, brilliant books. Really good concept. This book I got from like a school book club, and I remember waiting weeks and weeks for it to arrive, but I just really loved the illustration on the cover, which is why I bought it, and the fact that it was foil and shiny helped as well. Those are just some coins I think that I collected when I was a kid as well. Wind in the Willows. I think that might have had a story tape with it. This book I always loved just because of the illustration on the front. I think this is a Rodney Matthews. Yeah, it's illustrations by Rodney Matthews. One of my favourite kind of artists at the time. Nursery rhymes book. What a Mess meant a lot to me because I wrote a story basically when I was a kid at school, and I won the competition, and I got a book as a prize for that. So what's great about the What a Mess books is you've got one book on one side and you flip it over and there's another one. Haunted House. There you go. Pop-up book. Absolutely brilliant book. Probably one of the best books ever made. Asterix books. I think I had even more of these when I was a kid. I'd love to get the full set one day, but would just probably take up too much space. Trouble for Trumpets. Another fantastic book. Like, the illustrations in this must have taken a really long time. That was back in the day when people hand did illustrations and took their time over it. Right, Larry the Lamb Annual. I just bought this recently, but I remembered owning it as a kid. Managed to get a copy without any kind of scribbling or anything in it, or anything filled in, so that was a bonus. Frog and Toad books. I'm not sure if these are the original 80s versions or if they're newer versions, but the illustrations look the same, so I'm happy with those. Tony Hart art and craft books. I remember my parents getting me one of those when I was having my adenoids out in hospital. Peace at Last, another brilliant book. Yeah, I remember my mum reading that to me when I was laying in bed as a child. Read it yourself, Gingerbread Man. So there's lots of Ladybird books that I used to have as a kid, so I brought back some of the main ones. The Magic Stone. But yes, what I wanted to talk to you about in this video is a very special book, this one, called The Werewolf Mask. Now, this book, I had it as a kid and it used to freak me out. I mean, I was very young at the time, but this picture on the front used to scare the bejesus out of me. And so much so that if I had it on my bedside table, I had to turn it upside down so I couldn't see the face. It was quite a freaky book. I think they re-released this book with a completely different cover that's nowhere near as scary. Here you go, look, The Werewolf Mask. The mask looked just like a horrible werewolf with blood dripping from its fangs. It was one which fitted right over Peter's head, with spaces for his eyes, so that when he looked out the movement gave an extra dimension of horror. To Peter's mother, the mask is simply a waste of money. To a young girl he tried to scare, it's just plain silly. But no one thinks to suggest that wearing it might actually be very dangerous. Dun dun dun. So, yeah. It's taken me 12 years to find this book, because all I remembered was that it was a book with a werewolf on the front. And if you type in werewolf book into eBay and you don't know the name of the book, you only know that it's got a werewolf. There are so many werewolf books, and yeah, it's just really hard to find this actual one. It hadn't come up. Every time I typed in werewolf book and scrolled through dozens and dozens and dozens of werewolf books, it never came up. And then the other day, bam, there it was. Got it for £5.50 after all this time. But just look at that illustration. It's absolutely brilliant, with the light, uplit from the bottom. That kind of shiny black lip on the werewolf. Absolutely horrifying, especially for a small kid. All of the stories in this book as well have got like twists at the end, like scary twists, and that one particularly freaked me out as a kid. So I'm so glad to have this book back, and I reread the story to myself the other day, and it's still quite scary now, even as an adult, but I somehow coped. Anyway, thanks for watching. Check out my other videos if you get a chance. Hit subscribe to see anything that I post up in the future. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video.